wash your hands.
We always do. Welcome back to Quarantine Kitchen, guys. Today we're doing a bit of a special episode, and we're going to be preparing a dish specifically for an event that we've got coming up. We're working together with a few other chefs. It's going to be super exciting, and we're inviting everybody to cook along with us. So I'm going to be demonstrating my course, which is the fish course of a multi-course menu. We're doing a really simple seared trout. I've tried to stick to ingredients that most people would have in their homes. If anything comes across the ingredients list today that you don't have in your homes, you can probably work around it, so shoot me a message and we can figure out alternative ingredients. But we're trying to do something simple, fun, the whole family will enjoy eating, and have a little extra fun in the kitchen today with some chefs across the internet. So, we are doing, as I mentioned, pan-seared trout, really simple lemon beurre blanc sauce, some toasted breadcrumbs, and a few other crunchy bits to go along. The first step was cleaning the trout, so I trimmed off the extra bits, squared it off a little bit. I cut these fancy little slits in the top of the skin, and I patted it dry. Patting the skin dry is a really important thing for me when I'm cooking fish, because it's gonna help me get a really crisp skin and not have anything sticking to the bottom of the pan. We're gonna cook this skin side almost entirely, but the first 5 minutes of the cooking period is going to be on the skin side. The point of this is to get that skin really beautiful and crispy. I'm going to season the outside of the fish pretty heavily on the skin side with salt and some pepper, and that's about it. As you can see, our pan is starting to get nice and hot. The butter is browning. I've only got butter in there. I want to be careful I don't burn myself. I also want to be careful I set this down with some confidence, because once we've set it down, it's not going to move around too much. I'm also splashing some butter up on the fish. This is both to make me feel like a professional cook, because this is what we see the fancy chefs do on the internet, but it's also just to ensure that we're kind of adding some heat and some fat to the top of the fish. It'll help with the cooking process. Earlier, I sliced up our garlic nice and thin. I'm going to take some of that garlic and add it to the pan now. Okay, so very quickly I moved the sliced garlic from the pan on top of the fish. Okay, so as you can see, the fish is almost completely opaque. I know in the middle it's still a little bit medium rare, which is almost exactly where I want it. Rainbow trout medium rare is just beautiful. So at this point, I'll flip it in a second. I'll let it sit on its non-skin side for about 20 seconds just to shoot some heat through it. And then that'll be it. We'll remove the fish to the plate and we'll get working on the rest of our ingredients. To flip it, I want to use something like this. This is actually a fishula, which is amazing for flipping fish, obviously. But anything you got at home, a spatula or anything will do. But this is sort of a moment where we're going to be very careful not to destroy the beautiful crispy skin that we've created. I'm going to remove this yummy garlic over to this pan here, because later I'm going to use it to dress our little salad. So, the next thing I want to do is toast off some of these breadcrumbs. I deliberately left these breadcrumbs torn instead of crumbled too much. It wouldn't be the end of the world if you only had ground up breadcrumbs. But being that these are just a little torn, they're going to provide lots of really interesting textures. Okay, next. Our breadcrumbs are almost done. Even if you're using really dry ground breadcrumbs, this stage is pretty important because you're seasoning. You're putting a little bit of flavor into them. We're sucking up all that butter that we were going to allow to go to waste. And my breadcrumbs are there now. So we've got them beautifully toasted. They've got a whole bunch of flavor from spending that time in the pan. And then I'm going to remove them to a small little bowl here, so I can use them as a garnish later. Okay, we're back. Same pan, still nice and hot. Next step, we're gonna build up our sauce. So, another little tab of butter into the pan she goes. And I'm gonna put the rest of our chopped garlic, a little bit of pepper, Miss G. Put a pinch of salt, but not too much, because I have these capers. Caper berries are a beautiful little addition that we're gonna add here. They're pretty salty. If you don't have these at home, you certainly don't need to use them in the recipe. But I love capers with seafood. It's a lovely combination, and the saltiness is just really going to set this off nicely. So we've got our garlic, which is browning up just nicely. We've got our capers, which I know you can't smell it, but they're giving us an amazing briny flavor. We've got a little bit of white wine here that we're going to deglaze the pan with. So now, while we're waiting for this to reduce a bit, we'll talk about the rest of our salad. So in here we have the sliced garlic from before. We have the lemon juice. We have the radishes. And now I've got parsley that we started with. I divided it into two places. We've got chopped garlic and torn garlic. We're going to put our torn garlic in the salad. And then that's pretty much it. I'm going to turn our heat down here quite a bit. Now that I've got our liquids reduced, so the next thing we're gonna do now that we've got our liquids reduced down, I've turned the heat way down on this, and we're gonna incorporate our butter. This is gonna mount up a really nice, rich, luscious sauce. So to do that, we're just gonna throw in a couple pads at a time. I'm gonna use my spoon to mix it around quickly so that the two can incorporate into one. I've also got a little chopped parsley that we're gonna throw in this sauce just to set it off with some color and some flavor. Our sauce is mounted, it's beautiful, rich. I can smell the parsley and the capers, it smells amazing. I'm just gonna ladle this onto the plate, spoon it on. Next step, I'm gonna add our beautiful garnish here. And then last but not least, we're gonna add our breadcrumbs. This is one of my favorite parts of almost any recipe is texture. And these breadcrumbs are really gonna do a lot for this dish. And that's it, my contribution to Quarantine Kitchen. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I think it's a really easy, excellent recipe. I know my kids can't wait to dig into it. And thanks for joining us, and bon appetit. What do you say, G?
Bon appetit.